Wednesday, Weird Wednesday, Unusual opening stream here on my channel and on lichess. I had a strange sensation. I don't know why I wanted to say FICS. Like, Free Internet Chess Server was the first place where I played chess. Actually, it was the Internet Chess Server 24 years ago or so. But anyway, we're streaming on lichess. Welcome everyone, all of these regulars here. You guys are ready to play. We've got unusual chess openings today. So what I'm trying to do is play stuff a little bit outside the normal repertoire. I don't want to play crazy, ridiculous openings like, I don't know, A4 or something, or F3. But today we have some fun and we don't stick to our normal repertoire. Play kind of experimental, interesting openings. So we've got challenges Aldisto. You guys can challenge to any time control. It doesn't have to be A+3. Anything between 5-3 and 8-3. So if you want 5-3, 6-3, any kind of increment from 5-3 up through 8-3. Mule Skinner, welcome. Aldisto, World Loser, SXPG, Mule Skinner. We have a new challenger here. That's actually some sort of casual unlimited standard game. Okay, that's fine. I'll save that for later. Hunt, A+3, Ayeste, Kyriakos Pez, and a lousy dirty cheater from Switzerland. What is that, Switzerland? Okay, I don't know, man. You know, it's not chess.com. So yesterday I played a game on chess.com. It's like unbelievable. Every game I play there, there's like somebody using a computer. If you have an internet chess site, you know, you've got to do something about the cheaters. Anyway, here on lichess, I'm pretty happy. I mean, it's very rare that I play someone who's cheating. On other sites, it seems like it's just rampant, you know. This is the only place I feel like I'm not facing computers every other game. So anyway, they do a pretty good job here on lichess. I think it's just a joke. A lousy Serdi Dieter. Anyway, Aldisto. Let's get started. I've just got to remember to play something as far as unusual openings go. Have it. What is unlimited? Yeah, unlimited means like you can take forever to make the move. Basically, you know, this is a lifetime time control. It's pretty weird. Those games tend to get like aborted. Usually one side or the other just gives up. But you know, I like the endless time control. Alright, so Aldisto, what are we going to do here? We could play E4 and try to take it into something interesting later. Let's see now, he plays the Sicilian. Let's just start with something like F4. Self-inflicted but always cheats. The Arsenal fan, Richie says, chess.com hands are tied when its cheats are gold members. This is the problem with pay sites in chess. I'm not going to get into a big discussion about politics or chess cheaters, but yeah, the problem is free sites have an advantage because they don't have any loyalty to individual members. They don't have to protect their members who are cheaters. They can just kick them out, you know. That's an advantage. The disadvantage is that just they keep making new accounts or something. So it's a never-ending cycle. F4, G6. All right. Someone I recently lost to playing F4, and could it have been Aldisto? Sicilian Wing Gambit is interesting, definitely. I had a friend who was a coffee house player. He liked to play the Sicilian Wing Gambit. But you see some masters occasionally specializing in that stuff. All right, so D5, and I prefer to go into a kind of Leningrad setup when given the opportunity. Too late for B3. Of course, we could play E3. You know, Aldisto's a Sicilian player. Like, another repertoire you can play if you play against F4 is to play C5, of course. You can allow transposition to the Grand Prix attack. So, what am I doing here? Guys asking me if I was going to stream today. I was a little late. We're about 5 minutes late. Exaggerated, maybe 10. I started about 10 minutes late, guys. I was a few minutes late, then we were having a political discussion in the chat stream. What level is Coffee House Player? I think it's more it's more an indication of style rather than level. There are various levels of Coffee House Players. You know, they can be anywhere from beginners up to masters. But they tend to be like kind of tricky and play non-standard openings. All right. We could transpose to a proper Leningrad, but he has to play c5 in order for that to happen, and then he'd be a tempo down on normal lines. Deep Wolverine. Welcome, guys. It's Wednesday today. I keep thinking it's Thursday for some reason. Like hustlers. Well, yeah, hustlers are among them, right? Part of the crew. I spent some years playing blitz for money in a cafe in Boston, and one of the better chess cafe scenes in the United States over the years. And so I spent many hundreds of hours, you know, hanging out with sort of degenerates, and some good people too, a lot of good people too. But you know, it was interesting, an interesting experience. C5. Okay, now we've got various approaches. It's a proper Leningrad. We can play knight c3, queen e1, probably c3. It's interesting though that sometimes, you know, being a tempo down, I think this move might be more dynamic, you know, trying to play for e4. But if you think about it, you're not going to fake the contrary. My positional judgment isn't so good. Yeah, Blue Crow is like a coffee house player. I mean, I imagine in Paris they have a lot of chess cafes and coffee house style players. Having said A, do I want to say that? Well, he's not playing d4 because he's a tempo down. Did you ever play f4 in an over-the-board game? The answer to that is I'm not sure, Ominous Monkey. You know what? Maybe I didn't. I mean, it's hard to believe that I didn't. I might have. You know, I played a lot of weak players at the chess club. So it's possible that like once or twice I might have played it. Not against a serious opponent. Maybe I would get paired down, but I don't remember doing that. I know I played b3 and f4 consequently. I definitely have some games where I open like 1b4, 1b3, 2d5, f4, Nimzo Larsen attack, or what's it called, the Bird Larsen? Bird Larsen. But as far as playing f4 on move 1, it's not my favorite, but I like doing it here on Weird Wednesday just for fun. We had I'm really fond of saying sentences and not finishing what I was saying, but I had some bad results with b3. A couple of games I lost in the not so distant past. But f4 I can't be sure I played or not. And I don't think I ever played the Dutch. I've been thinking about playing the Dutch for like the last 20 years, but I just can't bring myself to do it. But I always talk about it. So I was thinking about this position, and here I think we have two choices. We can play pawn takes pawn, knight takes bishop g2, keeping my white squared bishop. Or we can just play like e4. So I think pawn takes pawn, knight takes, and then if knight h5, g4. I'm a little nervous about this. Take, take, bishop g2, knight h5, g4. There are other moves there, but g4, knight g3, rook f2, and now h5, bishop f4, with a complicated game. Cop out. Alright. My white squared bishop is a terrific piece, and we also have play along the f-file. So Aldisto basically, you know, sharpened the play here dramatically, but he achieved e5, which really challenges my opening. I think when you play the Dutch, or you play f4, and the other guy achieves e4 or e5, they're really questioning your entire, existence. Your entire existence. Reverse Leningrad. What? There are options, but sometimes it can be difficult for black. Sorry, played h6. g4 against the Leningrad is annoying. Like, I'm gonna guess that you're talking about playing g4 against the Dutch, because I'm not sure. The Leningrad is just particularly this fianchetto setup in the Dutch. So Augusto just played queen e7, which is like a really centralizing, developing move. Nothing so crazy as knight h5. I can play g4. Screw it, I'm just gonna play g4. Rather than sit around and wait for him to play knight h5 when there could be some complications, I'm just gonna play g4 straight up. And we have the standard sort of plans available here. If I had played queen e1 right away, there were some problems, although I could have played that. Queen e1, rook e8, queen f2, kind of crawling with the queen, which is a typical maneuver. Now it's too late. There's no queen crawl. No, we'd like to get the queen out on this diagonal where it accentuates my chances to attack on the dark squares, but it's too late now. Could be an issue, although he put this f rook there. I guess he wants his rooks in the middle. There's also a case for the other rook, I guess. And now maybe I'm going to play c4 here because of the threat of knight d5, but it's kind of committal. I'm honestly concerned that he might have c4 himself, but maybe I'm releasing the tension too quickly if I do this. Bishop d2. Bishop d2, knight d5 drops a pawn for black. I think that I have a problem, which actually World Loser sent me an email where he was trying to help me figure out, positive criticism for my last tournament, and I've also discussed it with some other players. I mean, it's possible that I'm shying away from complicated positions too much and simplifying too much when I get stressed, and I think that I need to make an effort to kind of keep the tension and not simplify, not trade pieces. The temptation here is to clarify the situation, either by like playing c4 or playing c takes d, and I think I need to embrace complication a little bit more, because how are you going to beat strong players? I struggle to beat 2300 players. I have 8 draws with 2300 players. The problem is that these players basically they don't want to take any risks against someone who's slightly higher rated than them, And that's putting me in an awkward situation where the onus is on me to do something. Alright, let's play c4 anyway. We could break Benoni style. This also takes away the d5 square. But I'm backward along the e file. You know, it's a complicated position. I do have a very, very strong white squared bishop to compensate for the downsides of my position. Very surprising pawn move from a master who never wants to create any weaknesses. Which pawn move is that? Wow, he's sacking a piece here? Which pawn move was that? Like the first one? F4? Are you talking about? Okay, this is just very, very serious complications now. Whew, he sacked a piece for 2 pawns. But I'm not sure which pawn move you were talking about. C4? I mean, I think this is a pretty typical position for the Dutch. A speculative piece sacrifice, but probably sound. I was thinking about 91, but I mean, this is purely defensive. Is he threatening bishop e5 here? I really don't know what to do. Like, it's the first moment where I could play queen e1. And this is a very strong attack for black. Okay. Excuse me. We're still not fully recovered from our laryngitis. Our bout with laryngitis. Totally speculative situation. Speculative. What are we doing now? Bishop f3. There's no doubt that black has compensation for the sacrificed piece. I feel like black has the initiative here. Whoa. Queen g3. Bishop takes e5, followed by queen g3. Then he has like rook g5, which is really irritating. My other rook. It feels like he has 3 pawns for a piece. Because this pawn is so backward. I mean, almost like it doesn't exist. It's cutting off my other rook from getting into the game. I just would guess that if we had a computer evaluation, it would probably be pretty close. Yesterday, Arsenal fan Richie made the comment like, I don't care about computer evaluations, which is fine, but it's simply, you know, a way of expressing. I guess a numeric evaluation is an easier way of expressing who's better, you know. So whether we're talking about a computer or not a computer, I mean, I want to talk about some sort of numeric evaluation of the position to make it easier to understand. I think that it's pretty close if we evaluate this position. Do I have bishop takes g4 here? This is so scary. I feel like it's a mistake to take the knight on g4 because my bishop on f3 is such a key piece. But what am I going to do? You know, this thing is right in my face. Eliminating dangerous attacking pieces is my business. Not always the right decision though. Whoa. Oh no. How does that work? Oh, I'm getting mated. No, I'm not getting mated right away. He had queen h3 there. I was terrified I was hanging mate. Oh my god. His rook's attacked. I'm thinking he can play queen d6 here. Talk about making life difficult for someone. Now he has two connected passed pawns. Goodness. It's not much of a knight, is it? Okay, I have no idea what's going on here. Cutting his king off. Just 60 moves. It feels like a 100 move game. Oh my gosh. That was an exciting game, huh? Knight f1. I know that we missed all sorts of moves. um, so what's up? What did you think of this game? Well, this was wild. Was I ever really lost? Is an interesting question. You know, I mean, I had the feeling I might have been lost at some point. But I'm not sure. You know, it looks like it's possible I wasn't ever completely lost. I was just like, it was unclear most of the game until the end. But I want to see, before we start the next game, just out of curiosity, did he miss any wins? By the way, I caution you when using the... Yeah, he had a win there. Looks like he had one moment when he was winning. I caution you when you're using the analysis engine, to give it a lot of time to analyze. This, like, surface 5 minute or whatever, 1 minute, 2 minutes, however long it takes, you know, the surface computer analysis is liable to miss something. So you can't definitively, you know, be sure about the evaluation. But it looks like he was winning at one point here, which doesn't surprise me in the least. So apparently at this point was a blunder. Oh. What? I wanted to play queen takes g3 here in this position, but I freaked out because I thought, you know, if I take on g3, he has some, like, maybe rook h4 type of move, and I wouldn't be able to stop the threat of rook g4. But apparently it was kind of a ghost. You know, I could move my queen again or something, so I should just take this pawn here. This was a huge mistake, but I don't see the win, so I was... What is this? A computer glitch or something? Oh, I didn't take the pawn. Right, okay. Yeah. I played rook g2, and now he had queen h3, and I saw it. But in my fantasies, I was okay here. I'm not okay here. I saw queen h3, but for some reason, I don't know why, I didn't realize how fatal it was. I thought I could play like king f1 or something. But then I lose my queen to rook f8 or rook f5. So yeah, it was lost for one move. But objectively, what I think the reality was that it was unclear, you know. Peter doesn't like the sacrifice. But it's interesting, and I think it posed a lot of practical problems for white, you know. So I think it was a very, very practical try by black. Alright, SXPG 8+3. Hey, you guys, stop fighting in the stream, chat stream, or whatever it is, in the chat, please. SXPG. We're going to play another game with white, guys. I don't want to play every game with white. Yeah, you guys. No fighting with each other in the chat, please. Sparkle Horse versus SXPG. I'm going to play e4 and try to get some kind of a... There was World Loser before you. Alright, we'll play World Loser next. I didn't realize he got bumped. Thanks for letting me know. That's correct. Sorry, World Loser. So, we'll play you next. Let's try the King's Gambit. My Stockfish works much faster. It depends on what browser you have, and make sure that if you, whatever browser you're using, make sure that it's updated to the latest, like, version and stuff. I mean, I guess that the Mozilla Firefox is not the best for use here on with the analysis engine on lichess, but it works okay for me. The Hammer of Injustice. Yeah, the Hammer of Injustice came down yesterday. Justifiably. Just Just kidding. I just can't stop myself from these plays on words. But anyway, it's an inside joke. E takes f4. Now we can play bishop c4. You know what I like for black? As a practical defense to the king's gambit? Where's constant change? We haven't seen him since I've been back, but he plays the Falkbeer. The Falkbeer is fine, but my idea with the Falkbeer is that you can play the Falkbeer, not my idea, but I mean an idea in general. Play the Falkbeer and then take on f4. So you limit the amount of variations that white can play. Like a delayed king's gambit accepted. You got a bad PC, I think that's it. They say that Chrome is better, but I'm not sure if that's still the case. But Chrome is better for using the analysis engine. Constant change actually plays the Falkbeer proper, right? Which seems like a good opening. You know, the Falkbeer was always considered to be this like ultra romantic, that is like e4, e5, f4, d5. It was always considered to be this ultra romantic defense, you know, that like a Morphe might play. But looking at it with the computer, modern computers, which are much different from ones, say, 20 years ago. I mean, I've been playing with chess software since I was like 10 years old, honestly. So that's only a few years of practice, but the computers have evolved, and it looks like they like the Falkbeer. It looks like the Falkbeer is actually correct for black, like a dynamic way of refusing the material for a more dynamic path. King f1, d6, knight f3. Here now, I'm not sure if d6 is the best move for black there. I guess it's the main move. This is an interesting situation where like all the players I've seen in the database play queen h5, but I noticed that the computer, maybe it's this position, playing queen h6 or something. Slightly sort of surprising move. b5? What are you talking about? b5, where? We said look at e4, e5, f4, pawn takes f4, bishop c4, b5. Well, I mean, I guess there's some sort of points, you know, if you take it, the bishop's off target, and if not, maybe black can play bishop b7 at some point. Maybe, are we sure that's the position we're talking about? Bishop g4. Well, it's a playable move, I guess. Bishop g4, that is. I mean, there's lots of things I could do. I could trade queens here. And still, I think that we'd have good compensation. Like, knight takes h4, bishop takes d1, bishop b3, bishop g4. With a position where white has some compensation for the sacrificed pawn. Is black going to have problems with this? This square. It's half sound. The Sargon chess. Sargon. Right. Wait a minute now. Speaking of... You dropped a piece. Speaking of old school chess computers... Wait a minute now. Sargon. Actually... I know somebody who was involved with Sargon. I think there was a German programmer who created that, if I'm not mistaken. Do I want to enter into the complications here? He's got what, 2 pawns for a piece? Not really quite enough. It's a popular resigned here. Well, you can still play knight c5. Let's have a look at this opening. What's normally going on? I don't like queen h4, okay? And I think the statistics sort of favor d5 for black. But objectively, queen h4, I feel like it's harder for black to play that kind of position in practice. It may be a good move, but it's hard to coordinate the pieces with the queen out, you know, normally. So I think it's easier to play positions based on like d5 or knight f6. Anyway, queen h4, king f1. So d6 turns out to be the main move. And now, this is what I'm talking about here. This strange factor that, although most players play queen h5, which seems more logical in this position because the queen has this whole 4th rank to roam and whatnot, and pinning the queen on d1. If you look at the computer's evaluation here, it actually prefers queen h6 or queen f6. And I mean, maybe that's because it's holding on to this pawn on f4. Maybe if we let it run for 5 minutes and to a depth of like depth 30, it will start to change its mind. I don't know. But it's also interesting, this is a very small sample size. Queen h6 has been played by Matthias Bartel. Okay, it's one strong player. Doesn't really tell us anything. But it's still interesting. Maybe a good alternative. Bishop g4 has never been played before, which is funny. I mean, why not? There's nothing wrong with bishop g4. If we look in the database, a normal database with all games rather than just master games, I'm certain that we'll find bishop g4 has been played. The lichess here, it's just a master games, basically, players who are 2200 or higher. But there's nothing wrong with this move. I think it's okay. Now you simply have to move the queen. The question is, because I don't like giving up the white squared bishop without, I don't really like giving it up without provocation, though you could. I was concerned for black about the d5 knight, you know, coming to d5, and you're going to have problems protecting c7. So I would have even considered queen d8 here with black, but apparently I just have a really good King's Gambit. Actually, Arsenal fan Richie plays the King's Gambit. But I would do a little more research here. You know, I think it's much easier to play one of these other lines. For me, I mean, d5 seems like the just easy way to equalize for black. Either way is good. If white takes with the bishop, you gain a tempo. You could even play queen takes, queen h4 check there. It might be an improved version of queen h4 check. I'm not sure. But you see, like Hebden played it several times. Van den Dol. Slightly improved version of queen h4. I would play d5. Okay, Mule Skinner is next, but we're going to play World Loser, who lost his challenge. Though usually that's corrected. I don't know what happened. Guys, we're playing weird openings today, so I'm getting white every single game again. Sometimes you guys troll me with that. But don't do that, because I want to play weird openings with black, too. Our former moderator organized a day when everyone played white against me on weird opening day. I had white every single game, I think. But don't do that, because it's much more fun when I can play different stuff with black, too. Alright. World Loser. He plays the Sicilian pretty much exclusively. And Slav. What can we do? Let's try to find something interesting against the Sicilian. Oh. Okay, yesterday someone was talking about the rat. This is the most extreme form of this idea. But I don't see... he can't do it straight away, so after d4 he's going to have to play g6. He can't play knight h6 here. It's losing a piece, so... Bishop takes h6, obviously. You can't recapture because of queen h5 mate. So I guess he's going to play g6, I don't know. With the idea of knight h6 and knight f7. Now what if white were to play h4? Okay, I mean, it's like black played g6 and then played f6 on move 2. It's actually not that bad for black. Proper rat fan. Okay, but if you're going to play f6 on move 1, this is the right way to do it. The ominous monkey. Yesterday someone was claiming that like 1 in 10% of chess players are women. But, you know, I was looking at the Chicago Open yesterday, for example, okay? And thinking about this claim that someone made that 10% of chess players were women. This is not true, like, in practice. I looked at the open section of the Chicago Open. There were like 130 players and like 3 women. Or something like, I don't know, maybe less, but it was like, in the second section, there was like 2 women out of like 100 plus players. I mean, where are the women in chess, right? Let's eliminate women's titles. That was discussion yesterday. Fine, but whatever you do, you've got to encourage, you know, people to play, not discourage them, you know, from playing. So maybe, not to reopen this discussion, but maybe eliminating titles is politically correct or whatever, but still, there's got to be a way to encourage people to play you've got to encourage people to play the game somehow. Giving them like badges and stuff is one way of doing that. And you could have kids titles too if you want to. I mean, why not? Anyway, so let's stop bluffing and let's just play chess here. Looks like it should lose in 20 moves. No, I mean, why should black lose in 20 moves? If white's a computer, maybe. But it's not that easy. Very tempting to play h4, h5, but I'm not sure what it really does at the end of the day. If f4, I guess d6. I've never faced this opening in an actual game. I know what I'd like to do, I think. Maybe we just play a kind of normal Peart setup for white. Bishop e3, f3. It's kind of like a good against everything formation. Same-ish. Now f4. f4 is also possible. Okay, what Loser's doing here is good for people who actually, people who play for time often do these sort of setups. The Hippo is another one where you can play sort of like the opening in like 3 seconds. No matter what white does, you can just do the same setup real fast. Roman Gigiashvili used to play against computers, and he would beat them, sometimes flag them, basically. Older computer programs. You could just play this. What's this? Plucro is actually analyzing this bishop c4 b5 idea from the King's Gambit. May not be that bad. Strategically based setup for white now. Maybe we do like g4 and h4. Castle queenside. I wanted to do g4 first, because if I do h4 first, I guess he can play h5. I mean, maybe it's not a big deal here. And now, it's interesting. I was thinking about taking. It doesn't seem necessary, really. We castle queenside or play h4. I'm not sure which way I want to recapture on e4. My first inclination was to trade pawns on d5, but again, that leads to a lot of simplification, which probably favors black. White still has some advantage there, but I think I'm again avoiding the tension or releasing the tension too early. White is better due to more space. So you think it's decent, this b5 move? Alright, c6. I guess we'll just castle. He has some chances to drum up a queenside. I want to say kingside. Kingside attack. But it's like a good Pierce for white, I would think. His setup's pretty slow. Thanks for joining me, everyone. 50 viewers. We're streaming till 12:30, another hour and a half. Actually, maybe a little bit longer if I can hang out, because we started kind of late today. It's going to be hard to break black down without a pawn break, literally. We do need to develop, and the time is ticking. Complicated. It should be favorable for white, of course, but the position is very closed. It's hard to open it up. Now knight c4 is a threat, and b3 would really weaken my position. So I think I'm gonna opt for knight to g3 or knight f4 here, rather than weaken my position. Bishop d7 is kind of a strange move for the sake of developing. Not really sure what plan that is. What plan that is affiliated with. Maybe I should just play b3 after all. It really weakens my queen side. Bishop f8, and he starts creating menacing threats on the dark squares. you know, if he plays knight c4, I can probably take and maybe break with d5. He's thinking about castling queenside, and maybe queen b4 at some point. He wants to castle queenside. I decided to play this, maybe have knight b5 at some point, queen a5. But I'm getting low on time, so I'm forced to just do something. It's hard to have a plan when you have like 3 seconds per move, so I'm trying to avoid that situation. You personally liked bishop d7. Well, he doesn't have a lot of other ways to develop his pieces, honestly. I mean, maybe it's almost forced. He also has knight back to c8, recirculating. I don't like this move, but due to the time, I decided to simplify the situation because there's just too much to consider here, really. All right, now maybe I'm going to change tack and play bishop d2. Because I don't want to give him a better pawn structure. If I take on d5, I just fix his pawn structure. He's counting on me to take on d5 there. And by playing bishop d2, I don't give him that. This cuts out queen b4. Maybe instead of a3 though, it would have been better just to play knight e4, knight c5. Even the other knight. Should I play h5 here at some point? Not really sure. It's a positive thing. Just running out of time now. It's an extremely tense position. Look how well black has centralized his pieces like a machine. I mean, the coordination is unbelievable, given how little space he actually had. Although I don't like f5. I guess he's winning a pawn with this move. How can he have like 3 minutes more than me? Oh. Just winning a piece here. Okay. He's just too strong for me. I mean... Alright. I'd like to know like how perfectly he played this game. Once you get out of the opening part here, white has an advantage. But I have 3 seconds left per move now, at this point. F5. I didn't see F5. I spent all my time thinking about E5 here. But that's the second best move. F5, unfortunately, took me by surprise. This is a blunder. Black's perfectly coordinated. Now here I dropped a piece with pawn takes pawn. I only had 8 seconds. I have to play knight g5 and just like lose a pawn, or maybe I'm alright here actually. I'm concerned about losing the d4 pawn. Knight takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, queen takes. With the h7, h7 is falling, g4 is falling. I mean, it looks like white's going to lose a pawn, actually. Rook takes e1. What do I do? Bishop takes e1? What's going on here? To take on... He doesn't have bishop takes d4. It's complicated, but in all lines, black seems to end up, like, taking pawns first. The very least. I mean, the minimum here is equality. Black's probably better. So, again, I don't understand how World Loser isn't like 2400. I mean, he just beats on me all the time. Alright, Mule Skinner. At least somebody got white, but I wish it hadn't been Mule Skinner. Because we always have the same opening over and over again. The Grand Prix attack. So I can't play that because of today's unusual opening stream. So... let's see. By the way, if you're a player like World Loser and you play ultra fast, I think that these hippo rat type of things are ideal, you know, because you don't have to think. You just play your little setup, and the other side has to do all the thinking. I knew a guy who was an international master from Ukraine who used to play the hippo against everybody, you know, and he would just play real fast. And I mean, I think that these setups aren't really correct, but the other side has to sit there figuring it out, you know, spending 8 minutes trying to find some sort of advantage, and in the meantime, you just have like a 5-minute time advantage in a blitz game. That's pretty tough. So, e4. I have had decent results with Alekine's defense against Mule Skinner. We have had a number of games in this variation, but it's been a while. E5, knight at knight d5, knight f3. This is an unusual move. This would allow me to transpose to the Nimzovich variation with c5. Nimzovich Sicilian. Which I don't play anyway, so let's just play the Alekine's defense. Do you read the chat, or is it a coincidence? What's that? You think h4, h5 is best versus the rat. It's it's not really something I put a lot of research into. I've actually never had anybody play that against me in a tournament game. I probably have like 2,000 tournament games. I'm not sure anyone's ever played g6, f6, knight h6 in a single instance. I've had a lot of hippos, a lot of modern defenses, but don't recall ever having to really figure out how to deal with f6, g6, knight h6. Similar things. Alright, we're going to play bishop g4 here, which I've played in a number of games against Muleskinner previously. It's funny to play g6, f6. Yeah, but probably a lot of games exist, you know, in the database. It's like a real opening. Although the majority of games are going to be players who are below master level. So the statistics will look really bad for black because a lot of weak players play it. But if you actually had some strong players playing that last opening, I mean, it's not that easy for white, as you can see. I tried to play a very logical setup, but I didn't get much, you know. Bishop e2. Here, maybe I can take on e5, but I don't really like doing that without playing e6 first. I guess this is like main line. Karpov played this with white. I think against Lev Albert or something, there was some famous games Karpov won on the white side of the Alekhines defense in the 80s or late 70s. But nowadays most people don't play this variation. They play other stuff. There's all sorts of different lines against the Alekhines defense that are popular. 4 pawns attack, the exchange variation. White takes on d6. I guess I'm supposed to play bishop e7 here. Every time I see a position like this, it's like I'm thinking about it for the first time. Bishop e2 looks strange. What? I didn't realize that black's plan in the rat was to castle queenside. If I had known about that, you know, I probably would have I would have played it a little differently. I didn't know there was a plan. I don't think there really is. He just sort of made it up as he went along, but it's logical, you know. Bishop e7. Really hot here in Budapest. Feels like it's the middle of July. Guys, I also have a YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube, if you'd like to subscribe over there. Every Friday I try to put up a new video if I'm not away, as I was last week. Castles. Now, I said earlier that I've played this line before with Muleskinner, but something happened differently. Like, he played something differently, because we have not had this position before. I don't believe so. I think that this is the first time. I feel like he played it differently last time. Maybe I'm just not remembering. Let's see. We can also play h3 at some point. Can throw that move in. Got some Cyrillic. We try to keep the chat in English. But hello, chat. Chopta. Hello, you ignore me. We're ignoring you. He needs instant gratification, this chatter. Let's see, h3. I don't really want to give up my bishop here unprovoked. I mean, I am provoked, but yeah, we don't want to give up the bishop in this position. I don't think so. We can't let him take on f3 and bearing down on b7 in this position. We're getting some weird chat. So, bishop h5. I think bishop e3 looks right. Sometimes you see b3 securing the pawn on c4 in such positions. White can also exchange on d6. I remember some years ago here in Hungary there was a tournament in Paks where Korchnoi was playing against Ferenc Berkes, and Berkes is one of the only Hungarian players who plays, actually one of the only 2600 players in the world who plays the Alekhine regularly. But a4, we're definitely on a new page here with Muleskinner. a4 is usually played, is sometimes played, I should say, in these lines, but it's kind of late here. I don't think it looks like it really does any damage to black's position. I can play a5. You can also allow a5. I mean, I think typically you play a5 in these type of positions. It doesn't seem like a problem for black here. We've got some sort of trolls, but it's good. We've got programs in place for trolls. So anyway, guys, a4, sort of a weird move for Muleskinner. I mean, he's very systematic, and it doesn't seem like a move that's really his style, I would say. Now I don't know what to do. Maybe knight on bd7. There's a possible outpost for a knight at b4. So I could play... Okay, let's talk about d takes e. You know, d takes e, knight takes e5, bishop takes e2, queen takes e2, knight d7, I guess. Which looks slightly better for white. I mean, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm not really doing too much there. What if I just play knight to c6? Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, d5. I mean, this is why I was talking about Korchnoi versus Berkes. This kind of thing happened in Korchnoi Berkes, where he just does like pawn takes pawn, d5. When you play knight c6, and then sometimes there's this bishop takes knight on b6. This happened to a blitz game. Happened to me in a blitz game not that long ago. Maybe I should just play d5 here. By the way, like, what is happening there? It's kind of passive though. d5, c5, and then knight retreats back. But a5, I mean, a5 is, we can play b6. I kind of like this. Okay, I don't have a lot of space. It looks like a kind of weird Slav, but because his queenside, because he's played a4, he sort of messed up his whole queenside. So he doesn't have this flowing spatial expansion on the queenside that you normally would. You know, so otherwise, if he hadn't played a4 and I hadn't played a5, if I play d5, he plays c5, and then like b4, and white's just sort of got this space advantage on the queen side. Maybe they're playing Pokemon Go. I don't know. Now pawn takes pawn. I didn't expect this. I really thought he was going to take the space. Alright, fine. If I take with the pawn, my knight is just bad on b6. And he has a strong majority on the king's side. I think this is sort of mandatory. It's a weird position, a little bit now, slightly weird, but weird for both sides. I guess white still might have an edge here. Still, what's he gonna do? I mean, takes, queen takes, rook c1, c6, queen, bishop c4, queen somewhere, queen d7. It's pretty limited what white can do. Kind of advanced Caro Kann. Maybe he doesn't play knight takes d5, maybe he plays knight e4. He just doesn't do either one. I could take on e3 and play c5, but then he has d5, which is strange. c6 appears to be the most solid. And we're just going to play it like an advanced Caro Kann, where like white and black had played a4, a5 for some mysterious reason. But it looks pretty safe for black. It's a good thing he's not as fast as World Loser. He's the expert in closed positions. Yeah, I've never seen a player who was so obsessed with closed positions as this guy. He only plays closed positions. It's really bizarre. But he plays them well, you know. But I've never seen a player who was so one-dimensionally forcing closed positions every single game. Like, okay, we've played 100 games. You know, it's funny because I've played 100 games with some of you guys, and I mean, you know, you never play 100 tournament games with someone. Not that many players I know that well, having played that many games with them. I'm going to keep my white squared bishop. Keep the tension. This bishop is really bad. I'm not interested in snapping that unless I have some kind of really good reason to do so. And now we have c5, but that weakens the b5 square. Not the most fluid move. Queen b6. I like queen b6 here. Maybe supporting c5, keeping pressure on d4, keeping everything protected. Plays bishop c3. You know, and then maybe I prepare c5 at some point, right about now. This protects the knight on d7. In the event of bishop b5, when I play c5, I've got to be ready for bishop b5, which could disrupt my harmony here. But we're ready for c5 now. He could throw in something like h4, h6, h5, bishop h7. There it is. That's what I expected. I could even consider like knight f8. And maybe we'll save that for later. White's played excellently. He's still not worse, despite like a position that looked slightly overextended. Now he finds this move, knight d2, creating a new menace. It's very annoying. Wow. What an entirely annoying move. Knight c4. I just tried to make an illegal move. Alright. Now he blundered. Right up until the end, though, I mean, I think that it's interesting. Black's better according to the engine. It's that easy, though. Knight c4. I have b5, apparently. Okay. Weird game. Let's check the theory here. Yeah, we've transposed to main line. Castles. And then, as I said, bishop e3. Now, h3 is okay. Bishop e3. This is main line. You don't see these games too often anymore. But a4 is a novelty. I just don't think it's particularly effective here. Alexander Shabalov, 2007. Shabalov is Latvian. He's probably was trained by Bagirov, who's like one of the world's leading experts in the Alekhines defense. Bagirov may be dead, I'm not sure, but it's funny, like one of the one of the few times I played the Alekhines defense was against Shabalov. I didn't even realize he was such an expert in Alekhines. You know, having spent so much time with Bagirov and the Latvian crew, but I managed to hold a draw with Black against Shabalov in an Alekhines defense. My friends were like amazed. They're like, "You're crazy, man! Why are you playing the Alekhines against Shabalov?" But I never really thought about it, like that he played the Alekhines too, because he plays all sorts of stuff with Black. All right, weird openings today. We didn't play any b3. Actually, have we played this opponent before? No, this guy's new. New to us. Lost concentration, phone rang. Still, yeah, we're not going to be playing these 10 challenges. Obviously, we have time for like 4 more challenges, maybe. Knight c6. So e5 will transpose. Okay, we're now in main line. I lost to this German GM, or IM, years ago. The last time I played b3, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. But e3 is the main move here. There's a famous game where like Larson lost to Spassky, I think, with knight f3. And c4 is, of course, a kind of reversed Bauer Sicilian. Christian Bauer playing c5 b6 in the open Sicilian. It's probably a little better, like with an extra tempo. An interesting line that I never really explored too much. But if you want to take white out of book, I guess. Bauer is also the guy who plays... He plays the Owen defense, e4 b6. Wrote a book on that. So I guess it fits in with his repertoire. Maybe he's playing a lot of e4 b6. Knight f3 c5. What are you going to do? We're trying to play unusual openings today, thus b3. Can't remember the German dude I lost to, but the game was this modern variation, knight f6, bishop b5, bishop d6. That was the first time I had seen that, and I fell right into the, the ideas of this thing. Knight f6, bishop b5, bishop d6. And I saw knight a3, knight a5, and I started to panic, so I played badly after that. I played like an immediate exchange on c6 and ended up getting crushed. Actually, Hikaru played this way that I did, like knight f6, bishop b5, bishop d6, bishop takes b5. Hikaru actually did that and won a game, but he's a bit stronger than me. But I don't think that white should just exchange on c6 unprovoked. Very long ago, I think I might have played a game in this line against an amateur. f4, right? There's quite a bit of theory here that I don't know. Ominous Monkey looked up some game. What game is that? There's no way you found my game with Shabalov. I don't think that's even in the database. There's no way the Alekhines defense game made it into the database. It was like a game 45 or something. f4, f6. I think this is actually normal. And I have no idea what I'm doing. Pawn takes pawn, knight f3. I play the English defense for black, but that's different because black plays like c4. I mean, white plays c4. It's more overextended. This is a little different. Oh, the Spassky-Larsen. Okay, yeah, this is a very famous game where Larsen just got absolutely crushed brilliantly by Spassky. So, thanks for putting that there. It's a great game to just take a look at. I guess I'm trying to remember any theory here, but it's very, very vague. Queen h5 check, g6, provoking some weakening. Queen back to e2. Maybe knight h3. Alright. This is kind of a weird move. I'm borrowing from the English defense. The idea is to protect f4 and to keep the f file open for me rather than put a knight on f3. I don't want to play knight f3 and have black play pawn takes pawn. So, and by the way, another factor, in general, in these kind of structures, I don't like black taking and having to recapture on f4. This goes for the English defense too. If you have the structure, the symmetrical structure is not good for the side that's playing for dynamism here. I mean, I think that I might like let black take and simply not take back or sack a pawn or something. In this case, I'm taking back with a knight. And if he's taking on f4, okay, but I get a bishop pair at least. He gives up an important piece to force the symmetrical pawn structure. But somehow I doubt this is white's main move here. Maybe I'm supposed to play pawn takes pawn. Was I just winning there? Probably overlooked something simple like pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes e5. But he has intermezzos with queen h4 check, g3, queen e7. That doesn't make sense. Pawn takes pawn, bishop takes e5, queen g5. Is that possible? Forking e5 and g2? It doesn't work. g2 is not such a big threat, maybe. Okay, we'll check it after the game. Oh, the favorite move of World Loser, bishop d7. Alright. I love to tease you guys. What's happening here? Bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6, pawn takes e5, pawn takes e5. I still like prefer castling. This is the problem now. I'm not sure I have basically any advantage after this move. Now if I take on c6, he just takes back with a knight. If I take on e5, he takes back with a piece. That's what I was considering last move, to take on c6 here. But it looks sort of weird, bringing his bishop to c6. I should probably just calculate more. It's unclear. It's reminding me of my chess 960 game with Richie yesterday. It looks like we can induce some weakening in black's structure here. Wow, Plucro, that's a lot of... Only Plucro is talking in the chat now. He's basically banned everyone, and so only he can talk. Hey moderator, stop spamming the chat. You know this line? Knight h3 is probably second best. Knight f best move. Really? I mean, the thing about knight f3 that I don't like, we see evident in this variation, where like it obstructs my pieces, you know? Where's the path from the knight on f3? It gets in the way of the rook, it gets in the way of the queen on d1. And like here, you see why I'm happy. Well, if you see it, good, because I don't. I think I overestimated my position a little bit. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for black to think too long there. I mean, g6 is basically forced. No, I don't know what's going on. So I can sack my queen somehow. Fe. Damn, dude, that's crazy. No, I can't do that. I wish I could sack my queen. It's good to have an open mind, though. Pawn takes e5, pawn takes h5, pawn takes f6. I don't think that's going to happen. The problem is knight f5. I actually overlooked this. Okay, it's not a tournament game where I see everything, and even then I don't. But I really overlooked knight f5. One problem with playing openings that you don't play every day or on a regular basis is that they're just themes you don't have these themes in your mind where black's playing knight f5. I wasn't looking for knight f5. And here he's got it. I mean, it's a very strong move, and it should basically stop me in my tracks. Damn, dude, now we've got the queen sacrifice. I mean, we don't need a queen sacrifice here, but it almost works. Queen takes f6 check, king takes f6, pawn takes pawn double check, king g7, pawn takes d6 double check, king g8, pawn takes e7 with 3 pieces for a queen, 3 pieces and a pawn for a queen. Now that's minimum. But I think that pawn takes e5 just wins outright. Okay, he still has knight f5. There's no mate. I should win at least 2 pieces for a rook here. And I think that's clearer than getting 3 pieces and a pawn for a queen, but I don't know. Maybe in reality, the other way was even stronger. Just 2 pieces for a rook. I mean, on a technical level, that's a win, you know. But anything could happen in a blitz game. When there's a free moment, maybe fix that typo on the bottom of the screen, accepting. Oh, okay. Now you tell me after we've been streaming for like 2 hours. Alright. Let me look like an idiot. I did graduate from college. Am I flagging yet? Accepting. Hello from Russia. Lose my face. I'm sorry I didn't sacrifice my queen, guys. He actually defended against the threat. He defended against the threat of knight takes d5 there. Which would have been really pretty. Pretty good. Knight on h3 having a little... It was having a little bit of problems getting in the game with the other children. But we've still got some sort of coordination going on with all the guys basically hunting down the same targets, trying to get at f6. I was actually threatening knight takes d5 in this position, which would have just been a lot of fun. It would have won immediately. Rook d6. So now, for my next trick, maybe we just defend this, and that way I can move my knight without my position falling apart. Migrate to the other side of the board, something like knight e2. Looks good. h5 is not a bad move. Black's still alive. And probably he shouldn't be. Guys, we have time for probably 3 more games. Only 56 viewers. I neglected you guys for like 10 or 11 days. Usually we're up around 70 viewers on the weekdays and 100 on Sundays. Sundays I do a simul, 6:30 p.m. simultaneous exhibition against 25 players probably this week here on lichess. Just show up at around a few minutes before 6:30 p.m. CEST and you can get a game. Alright, so g5, black is getting really stretched. The defenses are getting stretched here. But I don't have a great square for my queen. I have a square, but it's getting in the way of my other pieces if I go there. I guess we're going to play queen b4. I want to reserve d4 for a knight. But he's still hanging on. Darn it. This is a neat move. Have this tactic. Breaking the defense. The f6 pawn was the key defender. All right. Thank you for the game. Let's check this opening quickly. You know, see if our moderator Clucrow is right. No, as I mentioned earlier, the modern defense seems to be knight f6, bishop b5, bishop d6. with the idea of knight a3, knight a5. And Jabava has his... As I said, I played this against the guy. It's just totally lame for white. Hikaru did that against Ponomarev and beat him somehow. He's actually done it a number of times. Well, I didn't lose because of the opening. I think my game went like bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6, knight e2. And why is it not in the database? It should be in there. I wonder if did I play d3 as well? There's just a lot of games, surprisingly. Anyway, that's the modern interpretation. But our hero played d5. We played bishop b5. He played bishop d6. I played f4. Here he can play queen h4 check, but f6 is the main move. And then queen h5 check is the main line. Okay. I thought about queen h5 check, but I didn't know if it was really a good move or not. White has a lot of options. Apparently queen h5 check is almost universally played. I think this position needs more exploration. I was wondering over the board, like, what's wrong with f takes e? I thought there was a trap here. F takes e5, f takes e5, right. If I play bishop takes e5, he's just taking. Oh, he has queen h4 check first. I did mention this, right? g3, queen e4. That's the problem. So, you can't just win a pawn. Now, I remembered this. I knew that I can't just take there. Well, maybe you can take... Maybe you can play another move here for white. Knight f3, there's one game. Peter Heine Nielsen played this. Knight f3 might be okay for white. Shandor Biro, saw him last week. He won the world, some sort of world amateur championship. All right. So f4, and then knight h3. We're in good company. Christian Bauer, 2015. And the guy played bishop e6. I'm surprised how few games there are here. Maybe in ChessBase we'll find some amateur games. Alright guys, we have time for just a couple more games. That's the correspondence. Ayeste, I didn't play you already. You were just talking in the chat. There's a new search bar in your browser pushing the whole board down a bit. Okay, thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, I should get rid of that. Sorry, it's a Norton thing, my virus software. You guys should mention this earlier. Alright, Ayeste. Black has a good center. World Loser, you're the guy playing the rat, and you're complaining that you don't like this for white? Black has a good center. Are you serious? Rat man? Since when did that matter? Oh, I played c4. Why did I do that? I'm supposed to play unusual openings. Alright. Well, that's fine. You know, we'll play something unusual here. c4, c6. Ratman is becoming classical all of a sudden. No, I think that World Loser is being literal. You know, okay, he's right, of course. Well, I mean, you can argue that all hyper-modern openings are suboptimal, maybe, that seed the center. But it's a matter of counterattack. Man, I've wasted all my time here trying to think of something unusual. All right. Well, whatever. Let's just try to find something a little bit off the beaten track here. Not necessarily a non-mainstream opening yet. Ratman is talking about the classical center. Look how you took me apart with the rat, World Loser. My center didn't seem to have a whole lot of significance at the end there. Alright. Now we've got to play the Panov Botvinnik. But you can also take twice on d5. Let's play this. I mean, I never play this variation. This is not really an unusual opening. It's actually a fairly well-studied variation of the Caro-Kann, but it's not something you see every day. Interesting that I guess they took here on d5 with the queen, because I was just analyzing this with one of my students. Vast majority of players, and the theory recommends knight f6 here. And last week or 2 weeks ago, I was actually analyzing this exact move, and it looks fine for black. I mean, I don't see any way white can prove that this is bad. Taking with the queen is just absolutely playable. It's like every Caro-Kann book, you know, just is like knight f6, you got to play knight f6. But queen takes d5 simplifies the position, you know. I mean, simplifies black's task, basically. You don't have to play all these complicated positions where you're down a pawn, white's playing queen a4 check and trying to hold on to it. You're just playing an isolated queen pawn position. And, yeah. It's kind of like a queen d8 Scandinavian with a couple extra pawns off the board. Now, it could transpose to a Queen's Gambit accepted, I guess. Some variety. It can also transpose to a normal Panov, but your tempo down with the queen on d8 some lines. White has an isolated pawn on d4. Well, my friend Alexandru Manea says that I'm too like attached to principles. Which he's probably right. I need to do more calculation, but I still think that principles are very valuable, and there's no question that white's structure is inferior. And I think that if you want to have a philosophical discussion about, let's say, if we have a philosophical discussion about how am I going to set up here? If we have a philosophical discussion about the chess openings and pawn structure, one can make the argument that the Panov attack against the Caro-Kann is incorrect. So basically, structurally, structurally white is worse. But this is a very important position. White is not worse here because he has dynamics. This is straight out of a classical Queen's Gambit accepted type of position. I'm not sure if there's really a tempo down here. You're really so bad at chess? You're a professor and doing my PhD on human resources management. Well, speaking of academics, I think this position is really important philosophically, you know, to chess, because you have this structural weakness for one side, and the other side is trying to prove that structural weakness is bad, and now we've got this dynamic possibilities for white on the other side. It's an interesting chess game. Knight a5, favorite of Paco Vallejo, who played that against me in some. He used to like to play the Queen's Gambit against me, Queen's Gambit accepted, and he would play like Knight a5, where other players wouldn't typically do that. It's interesting. Bishop g5. I think here this is actually correct. Fighting for control of d5 for white. looks like well played position by both sides, although knight a5 is kind of risky. Yeah, but the question is, does the tempo matter that much, you know? Darn. Looks like he's just equalized here. It's really strange. I guess knight e5 is a very bad move by me. I just played this automatically, but it's a terrible move. In this position, I need to play rook d1. I'm very lucky I got away with that, because he could have just played knight c6 and probably equalized in this position. Now rook c8, rook d1, it's... Why is it different? Oh yeah, let's see. Wait a minute, I have time for something? Maybe it doesn't matter, actually. Well, I have time for rook d1. It does matter. I mean, this should matter, actually. This clears the way for bishop e1, and I don't stick my rook, you know, it doesn't get stuck on a1. Yes, he's an impressive player, though. I like the way he plays very correctly. Just not a lot of time here. It's super important for both sides to learn how to play isolated queen pawn positions. Probably the most important, one of the most important, if not the most important position in chess. Because, I mean, there's every sort of double piece sacrifice, anyone? He's asking for knight takes f7 here. Wow. I just don't see that working. Wish I could play bishop a4 right about now. How many different openings lead to this structure? A lot. Queen's Gambit declined, Queen's Gambit accepted, Petrov's defense, Nimzo Indian, Caro-Kann. You know, so like 3 different openings from d4 and e4 can lead to this sort of structure. You know, now knight takes f7 is still on. It's like begging me to play knight takes f7 at some point. Just don't see. Pretty dangerous to take that piece. It probably just loses outright. Bishop takes g5, queen takes h7, check, king f8, queen h8, check, king e7, queen takes g7. He wants to find out. I want to find out too. I'm very curious about this. Okay, I'm not sure. I have 3 pawns for a piece. I might even have knight takes f7 in some positions. Okay, eventually the time. Oh, that's mate. Eventually the time really just decided the game. But let's see here. Okay, so there's a lot of games, I mean, in this position. It's actually a main line, but I mean, you got Rogers, Vlastimil Hort, Spielman, some Caro-Kann regulars playing this. I think that black's play is principled. E6. That's another move, G6, that seems like it might be playable. Gelfand Yakovenko. So it turns out that the main move here is rook e1. Not my favorite. Has a very good score, rook e1. My choice is very rare, queen d3. It's not clear what the best move is for white. I get queen e2. Queen e2 is more standard. I don't think there's anything wrong with queen d3. Ilya Balinov. Now we've transposed to some other theory. And this is a new move. Normal is b6 or a6. Some sort of fianchetto. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure knight a5 is great when I've played a3. But still, it's interesting. Here I thought you have knight c6, and you're okay. But apparently I can just play rook d1, let you take on e5, and it's not so bad. White still has some advantage there. Okay. I apparently could have played knight takes f7 and bishop takes e6. That's not clear. Now I had knight takes f7 again. Oh man, this double p-sack actually I was joking about. But this actually works? Nah. I don't see how this works. Doesn't work. Okay. No. Computer just needs more time. Okay, rook fe1. There's actually one game here. Knight d5, best move. Some dude played bishop d5, which is not a good move. Probably not a good move. Maybe not that bad. He drew bishop d5, but knight d5 is clearly best. And now I played bishop b1, which was very provocative. I had originally planned on playing bishop d2. Now g6 black should play, and it's a game, basically. g6 bishop d2, it's a game, but he played bishop takes g5. Apparently I have knight takes f7 here. This is just lost. Alright guys, we have time for 2 last games. Lousy Churdy Dieter. Please don't be a computer, Churdy Dieter. Alright, let's play a3. I've played a lot of different openings today. Can you go back to knight f7? I mean the double piece sacrifice? I don't think it worked. I'm gonna play I could play c4 there. I mean maybe that's the best, well that's definitely the best move for white. But that's another story. This guy's 2100 in bullet, but 1700 in blitz. How does that work? You have to be like lightning fast with the mouse, but like a weak player or something. Alright, he's sacking a pawn. It might be intentional. I'd imagine black could do that. Black could do that, but I would prefer knight c6 if you want to play this as a pawn sack. I think the knight would be better on that square. But I think he just blundered the pawn because he was playing too quickly. But if his bullet is so fast, so high, and his blitz is lower, you know, it means that he's just insanely fast. I would say. This is what I've developed from playing a lot of online poker over the last 7 years, 10 years. I mean, I start thinking about people's like information, you know, if I can process something about what little information I have. He's got bullet and blitz ratings. That's all I've got to work on. His nationality doesn't tell me too much. So I start thinking about people's statistics and trying to derive some sort of develop some sort of edge against them based on like where they're from, what their statistics say about their playing. Maybe I should play e3, but it would weaken my structure. He wants to play bishop h3. All right. All right. I mean, it's a shame to give up my dark square bishop though. Maybe I shouldn't. Yeah, I mean, how can we not? I'm not even sure this is a good move. Yes, his pawn structure is totally ravaged. But he's also, you know, this, for example, gives his bishop more squares if I make this capture on d5. I think the secret to this kind of position is probably, first of all, watch out for knight f4. I would say e3. This looks like a really frustrating move for black. This is a position where black has more or less like burned his bridges behind him. So he doesn't, his position is just wrecked strategically. So if he doesn't have tactics, he's lost. That's why I'm not going to grab more pawns. You're going to go investigate. I would like to play more games, but I unfortunately have to record 2 videos. He's setting up tactical ideas here. It's not, King h7 is not a defensive move for black. But actually I'm a good opponent for, this is a good opponent for me because I'm a very defensively oriented player. Now knight e4. Unfortunately, you know, I'm not sure it really does anything. I don't think he has any threats. Famous last words. I've got a lot of protection around my king from these pawns. Knight h4 check is in the air. Okay, f7 is hanging, but he's got rook g7. And I'd rather not, you know, free all of his pieces. Plus there's knight h4 check. He just hallucinated or something. That was why I played knight e4. It's actually not so easy for white to win here. It's gonna take some work. I mean, he can just go back and hang out, you know, down a pawn or whatever. Now it's just over. Cashing in your chips before, when it's too early. That's what Mihai Shuba would call giving up your, what is it called? Dynamic potential. Knight takes f7 is perpetual. Last game. I seem to have an issue with simplifying positions too early and releasing the tension too early. With Lousy Dirty Cheater, you can feel he has a real dangerous style where he's playing for tactics constantly and could be difficult. We're going to play it by ear here. I've got 20 minutes left. b4. This is my game against Yuri Lapshin from 2003, where I lost. Put it in his book on the Polish opening. Played Queen C1 here. I was just like slightly better after 10 moves, but ended up losing because it was a rapid game and Yuri's just a tricky player, and I played badly. But I don't really think that Queen C1 is a good move. Maybe Knight F3 is White's best move in this position, because I think that White can still play for an edge. Although, I would rather the pawn were back on b3, so I'm not sure. Actually, Jabava has played lines like f3 with the pawn on b3. With the pawn on b4, White is like more limited. I think you can't do anything too fancy. Yeah, the only player I ever played this against was Lapshin. The only other time I played against b4 was an old man in the New York Open once. Some old Russian dude in the under 2400 section. And I played against him a different line. I played b4 c6. And that's interesting. Another interesting line is b4 d5, bishop b2, queen d6. Lots of fun stuff black can do. Okay, e6. Yeah, this pawn, man, I mean, it would be better on b3. I don't like b4 myself. c4 is an interesting move, though. This is probably some sort of known idea. Bishop takes b4 is impossible. I mean, c4 feels logical and dynamic. I'm just not going to react to it. I guess you could play c6. I can take on c4. Speaking of isolated queen pawn positions. That'd be funny. I mean, why not, actually? Why not? Because it gives up my strong point on d5. It develops a piece for him. There's a case for why not. I really wanted to play g6 here. But there's a serious problem with that. Pawn takes pawn with the idea of queen e2 for white could just be crushing. Maybe we play developing move first. Keep our options open. Protecting f6 with the knight. I could allow. Wow, this changes the game. All right, that's a different story. This is a totally different story now. I played this player the other day, but I don't remember our game. Oh. This was on the stream yesterday? He lost on time. But I thought he had a good position. He had a pawn down, but really, really good compensation. Probably slightly better for him. But here it's just strategic. Maybe we can play an endgame or middle game where I can trade the dark squared bishops. Actually, that's his bad bishop, technically. There are no bad bishops. I've heard 2 Romanian masters say that in the last 2 days. My friend Alexandru Minea said it, and then I was reading Dynamic Chess Strategy again, and Suba says the same thing. Like, there's no good and bad bishops. There's just like badly placed bishops or something like that. Maybe I'm misquoting him. Rook e1. Obviously I have pawn breaks on the queen side with b6, but I don't know if we want to do that. First of all, I might want to play c6 first. That will give him some chance to break, though. Alright, we gotta do something. Knight h5, trading bishop for bishop. b6. Feels like I'm playing on the wrong side of the board almost if I play b6. Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. But I can play for c5. I have the better pawn structure. This actually feels correct. Yeah, the bishop b2, it's good. It's a good. In the classical chess literature, we call it active bad bishop. Bad bishop is just a term that describes the fact that the bishop's on the same color as a lot of the pawns. It doesn't literally mean the bishop is itself bad, but people do take it to mean that sometimes. Now what? Should I play knight h5? Pursuing some play on the dark squares, stopping f4. We have the idea of a5 in reserve. I don't know if we're going to have time for one more game. I mean, maybe. It depends on how quick this one is. Someone's going to get shortchanged, guys. Very possible. So don't be angry if you're like the one person who doesn't get to play. We've had some people complain, but I mean, what are you going to do? 92, fortunately. This is good for me. How good? That's the question. I think I have to allow this simplification here. I'm not actually winning a pawn, it would appear. I guess I could make an intermezzo here, rook b8. Wonder if rook b8 is just strong. There is knight b3 there. No, there isn't. Though there's other problems. I mean, sometimes he's going to have queen a4. Rook b8. Rook b1. No. I think this is fine. Oh, there is another problem. It's very complicated. What's going on here? Bishop c3. I could also play e5. AI. Knight takes c5. Yeah. I should just do it and not be fancy. And now we can start thinking about fancy moves, maybe. There just aren't any fancy moves. Unfortunately, maybe I should have done rook b3, but rook b8, but I was concerned about bishop c3, knight takes c5, bishop b4. But then I have bishop takes d4, rook c1. And I wasn't sure what was going on there at the end of the day. I might have to sack the exchange or something. Okay. He just has weak pawns, and hopefully more weak than mine. I don't win any material. He's got a massive time advantage, like 5 minutes to 1. Don't really know too much about this player, although yesterday he lost on time in a really good position. He might have been slightly better. What's wrong with queen b6? I don't know. I didn't see it. Damn. Queen b6 just is really good. Oh, that's it, man. Queen b6. Unfortunately, I didn't see it. That's the only thing wrong with it. Other than that, it's great. Okay, I'm just in time trouble. At this point. But the position is not that complicated. He's thinking a long time here, but I'm not sure why. Am I missing something? For a minute I thought I lost the queen. That would not be good. Unfortunately, man, I'm gonna blunder. God. He's got me down to 13 seconds. I mean, bishop takes d4, rook a4. The position is winning for black, but I'm just very pressed for time. So I probably had better. I just didn't have time to calculate. It's another guy who plays really fast. So it's a lot of work still. The last minute I saw this. Bishop takes d4. calculating a long variation, and I realized rook a4 wins a piece for white. Okay, I could bishop takes f2 check, queen. Nah. Where's my knight on h5? Yeah, not clear. I can't really do anything there. If I allow rook a4, I lose a piece after bishop takes d4. Best not to create complications when you have no time, as is the case here. So ironically, I lost to him on time yesterday. Now I don't have any time. h5 virtually random move. Probably last game for today, guys. He's playing pretty well, but, you know, he's actually not down a pawn. I keep acting like he's down a pawn, but he's not down a pawn. I feel like he's down a pawn because this pawn is so weak, and you start like psychologically convincing yourself of something like that. It's really weird. You say it to yourself over and over again, like, pawn, he's down a pawn, he's down a pawn. But he's not down a pawn. Yeah, he's playing pretty well. He also played pretty well yesterday. And then mysteriously lost on time when he didn't need to. But I mean, black's still better in this position based on structure. He was setting up some tactics with bishop takes g6. It's ironic because I was about to play bishop h6 too. And I better be careful about doing that. I don't like my knight on f8 here. Try to find some quick and effective moves. Can't allow knight c5. It's very hard for me to make progress. He is kind of pinned. I just picked up my king. That's a good one. Is my queen trapped yet? We'll see how he plays when he gets down to no time. I'm officially freaking out. Oh, he just lost on time. Interesting. Yeah, he's better after queen a7. I have to be very careful here. Queen a7 or queen a5. White has a slight advantage. Let's check his center pawn loss. Guys, that's going to be it for today. I have to go to record 2 videos. I'd like to play this game with puppets, but I just don't have time for a 20-minute game. Yeah, this guy is pretty strong. I mean, no cent-upon loss, no inaccuracies, no mistakes there. Maybe we'll find some here. He's a little bit worse after the opening. It was a very positional game. The engine says that we didn't make any inaccuracies, mistakes, or blunders. Let's just wait and see what the engine says. Rook A4. Froggy, I'm sorry. Maybe tomorrow. Froggy's only got 16 games anyway. Poppets gets shortchanged for today. I would like to play, but we really have to go. Plus I'm baking here. It's extremely hot in my office. As I approach the midday, it's just like brutal. Sweating. So he made it inaccuracy at one point. I can't wait to see, like, let me guess. You guys want to guess? One inaccuracy is B4. That's for sure. Yes, B4 dubious. And let's see his other inaccuracy, bishop F1. I mean, is bishop F1 really a bad move? I mean, it's kind of weird. Just seems like a neutral move. It's kind of harsh for the computer to give bishop F1 a dubious. Not everyone wants to play D4 here. I think that's sort of unwarranted. I mean, bishop F1. So this guy is pretty strong. Again, he loses on time in a position where he's slightly better. Just like yesterday. Alright guys, sorry I couldn't play today. Poppets, we will play next time. And I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. CET, with more Blitz and Classical Chess here on lichess. Thanks everybody for joining me. Thanks Blue Crow for moderating. And thanks for a loser for beating me with a rat defense. I have to do my preparation on that. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Also, please donate via PayPal to support the stream, support my YouTube channel. You can do so here on Twitch or on PayPal. Anyway, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.